Hey kids, this is Simon. How you doing? Caius Wallen, had posted in, I think, a few Facebook groups a couple days ago about player preparation. What do you do to prep as a player? Of course, we all prep as game masters, but when you're a player, what kind of preparation do you do? And I thought that was a great question, and it was very relevant to me at that moment because despite the fact that illness stopped our All for One game from going on, I found myself in the position of having to prep as a player. And what I mean by that is, I had created a character already and, had the basic idea down and everything like that. But since that time, because of just real life, we hadn't played yet, and I've been looking at all these other games involved in other stuff, and I realized all of a sudden I wasn't 100% sure how the system worked anymore. I kind of knew, but I just don't have enough experience where I can't wake up in the middle of a dead sleep and understand how that game system works. Now, if you're a new player and you're just being recruited into the hobby, that's a different story. I don't think we should expect those people to really, dive right into the book and completely understand how the entire system works. I think it's just good enough to get them to the table and, for a new player to find out whether this is their thing or not. I don't think they have to do very much prep at all, except just be ready to have some fun and be ready to be proactive. But if you're an experienced player, I believe there's a point where we're just going to be grown-ups, or we should act like grown-ups and do our homework before we show up to the table. We don't want to show up, to a game where a game master is so unprepared that they have no idea what's going on. But by the same token, we shouldn't waste everybody else's time either. I shouldn't waste everybody else's time and slow the game down. So I had to sit down and refamiliarize myself with the ubiquity system that we're going to be using in All for One. And one of the greatest things that's happened nowadays in I think all role-playing games is you can go online for just about any role-playing game and find, if not an official Game Master screen, a third-party makeshift Game Master screen, sometimes several of them, which is great because you can print something like that out or download the file or however you want to do it on a tablet or paper. The idea is that, okay, you're not going to be running the game, but that has all these relevant things that you're probably going to need to know how to do or, know those formulas or, when it comes time for task resolution, the stuff that's commonly going to come up. That's what shows up on a screen. Why shouldn't I have part of that as a player? So at least I kind of have an understanding of how the mechanics work. And then I should own my character, whatever kind of quirks or abilities or skills that they have. As God forbid we go into the magic system. Sometimes you have that. You ought to know how all that stuff works. You ought to have your spells. Figure it out. Like if you have spells or some kind of magic ability or whatever kind of stuff your character can do. Part of player preparation to me is kind of knowing how all that stuff works. Maybe not 100%, but you ought to take responsibility for that. Certainly, if you've been playing the character for a while, you ought to be able to know the stuff backwards and forwards, in my opinion. And then, of course, there's the other non-mechanical stuff where you ought to have like an idea of what your character's like. If you're a person like me, I'm going in there with a thumbnail sketch, and then we see the character that shows up over time. Other people may want to have a lot more backstory or much more detailed motivation. But for me, I did have to refamiliarize myself with my main character and with his henchmen, like what made them tick. I have to remember those kind of details. And then, last but not least, and I've talked about this before, a long time ago, I think now, in a video, at least a year ago, in a video about recapping. Like, I ought to know what happened last time. I don't know where we are. Maybe we haven't had a session for a couple weeks or a month, or even just a week, because life gets busy. Part of player preparation for me is kind of going back and remembering, maybe look at my notes or whatever, and kind of know going into there, where we're at, and not require that somebody else bring me back up to speed, and something that I was there last time, I should know. So that's the kind of player preparation that came to mind when I saw that. And that sounds like an awful lot. It really isn't. Maybe for the first time I kind of scramble around a little bit thinking, oh man, all these systems are kind of similar that I've been looking at, but I should know this one. So that took a little bit more time to kind of refamiliarize myself with some of the nuances of the ubiquity system. But everything else, it really doesn't take all that much time, as long as you're, I guess, consistent with just kind of keeping up with, where you are in the campaign, what your character's abilities are. You're writing down some notes, printing some things out, having some materials available. Of course, you ought to have pens and dice and all that kind of junk and your own snacks. But yeah, player preparation, I believe, I don't think you ought to over-prepare as a game master, and I don't think you necessarily need to over-prepare as a player, but you ought to show up prepared. You ought to show up not expecting somebody else to do your homework for you. So that's my rant on that. What do you think?